Hi, everybody.
Hi! Welcome back to another episode of
FilAmstagram.
Today we're going to reveal the story of our daughter, Miriam. This story is very personal to us because it shows our monumental struggles. But we hope it will inspire all who will watch it. So go get some popcorn and tissues because you might need them.
Bing and I were married in the Philippines in April of 2016. And a few weeks later, we flew to Nicaragua where we had a non-profit located in a poor, rural community. By June, Bing became pregnant, but it was a dangerous pregnancy because of her chronic high blood pressure, her kidney infection, amebiasis, anemia, and her advanced age, although she's not that old. The doctor put her on complete bed rest and a no-salt diet so she could rest and avoid taking medications during the first trimester. Things got better, but by November and December, Bing's blood pressure was out of control again, and she was in and out of the hospital.
Then, on Christmas Day, our biggest crisis began. I awoke with a blood pressure of 200 over 100. Paul had to rush me to the hospital 33 kilometers away. I was terrified at the thought of having my baby at only 6 months. But to save my life and the baby's, I needed an emergency cesarean. To fight my tension, I sang inspirational songs in Spanish during the operation. We were in the middle of a prayer when we heard the baby's first cry. That sound of us praying was the first thing she heard in the outside world. She was tiny. She weighed only 1 kilogram.
I'll never forget it. The neonatologist took Miriam out of Bing and ran past me saying, "Quick, get your cell phone and take a picture of her. This is your only chance." So I grabbed the phone, ran after him, and got this shot, and then followed him to the NICU. As you can see, Miriam was only a little bit bigger than the scissors in that picture, and she was actually a bit plumpier.
She's in the world now, everybody, and she is yawning. She's had a long day already. Say hi to mommy, Miriam. Blow her some bubbles. Come on, blow mommy some bubbles.
So Bing recovered, but Miriam's problems had just begun. 2 days after she was born, Miriam's right lung collapsed. It broke our hearts to see her suffering, to cry hard without a sound coming out because she was so weak. She fought hard for her life. We thought we were going to lose her. We asked everyone to pray for her. We fell asleep crying. By morning the next day, we were overwhelmed at the response sent by Bing's 3,000 Facebook friends and my few hundred. We had friends of friends praying for Miriam from all over the world, in all continents except Antarctica. That was Miriam's first miracle.
At that time, Miriam came so close to dying. But when I saw how she was able to make people from all over the world pray to God all at the same time, I realized that that was God's plan for her at that time, and that God had a plan for her all along.
Miriam Grace suffered a lot of complications. Aside from her collapsed lungs, she had jaundice, an upper respiratory tract infection, pneumonia, a blood infection, a brain hemorrhage, anemia, and a hole plus an open valve in her heart. She lost even more weight and was reduced to skin and bones at 750 grams, which is about 1.5 pounds.
For over 2 months, we visited her 3 times a day in the intensive care unit for babies. That was our entire life for 2 months. Everything else just stopped. In front of her incubator, we prayed, we sang songs. Prayer was our lifeline because with all her complications, anything could happen at any given time. She needed it, and we needed it to stay safe.
Some days would start good, but quickly turn to a nightmare by the night's end. At that time, we were staying at some friend's house, nearer to the hospital. Those 5 minutes from the house to the hospital were excruciating torture, punctuated with tears of fear for what awaited us at the NICU. Sometimes it did turn out to be a bad day. The nurses would tell us to wait in the hallway while a doctor did emergency procedures on her, and we could only cry and expect the worst while hoping for the best, because no one would tell us what had happened. Then we would be let inside, And there was our little warrior, exhausted from crying but still fighting, stuck in a mess of wires and tubes, connected to half a dozen machines simultaneously beeping. Even months after that, any urgent electronic beeping sounds brought us instant PTSD.
Now for a fun fact, you already know that Miriam is half American, half Filipino, and that she was Nicaraguan by birth. But do you know that she also has Nicaraguan blood for real? She needed blood transfusions 3 times. So, she does have Nicaraguan blood running through her veins.
Yeah.
Don't you?
During Miriam's stay in the NICU, many miracles happened, involving absolute strangers that became involved with Miriam Grace's story. One day, a lady bumped into us at the hospital elevator, and she asked, "Are you Miriam Grace's parents?" It turns out that she was also a preemie mom to 29-weeker triplets, as old as Miriam, but had lost one of the triplets. Our doctor had told her about Miriam, and she came to donate a huge stash of breast milk for Miriam, who got the milk meant for her deceased baby. From then on, she supplied Miriam with breast milk until she was 7 months old. In addition, she got a friend of hers to donate an expensive double electric breast pump that Bing had found a little bit better than all the other pumps she tried. Because of this, Miriam had breast milk for 1 year.
Another time, another lady sought us in the hospital. She said that she had just been on pilgrimage to Nicaragua. That morning, on her way there, she kept hearing a voice inside her head saying the name Maria Gracia, over and over. She thought, that's a lovely name. Later that day, she received a WhatsApp message from her prayer group urging people to pray for little preemie Miriam Grace, which is Maria Gracia in Spanish. Suddenly, she realized that the voice inside her was a divine presence telling her to pray for our little Miriam. She was so moved that she just had to tell it to us. Then she gave us some money to help pay for Miriam's expenses.
And another time, we were in dire need of human milk fortifier to add to our breast milk to help Miriam gain much needed weight. Our nonprofit's president, based in the States, acquired a whole box at a discounted price and was going to send one of our volunteers from the US to bring it to us. Then, all of a sudden, one of his neighbors, a commercial airline pilot, had a sudden flight cancellation. And for the first time in his life, he was reassigned to fly to Managua, Nicaragua. So it happened as if the Archangel himself chose his namesake to fly down to bring us the much-needed package.
Another miracle happened inside the incubator itself. Miriam's neonatologists needed to transfer her IV line from her now withered umbilical cord to her leg, but because her veins were so tiny, he was failing to get a vein that could actually take a needle. Then he took her leg in his hands and prayed, and he heard a still voice inside him say, "Put it in, right there." And he did, and the needle stayed. Another time, when Miriam's blood and lung infections were not responding to medications, he heard that same divine voice tell him to switch out the meds for a particular antibiotic. He did, and the infections went down immediately. God was working miracles through Miriam's doctor. And what a sight to see! This huge man hunched down at the incubator, saving the life of the tiniest of babies.
And we also received donations of cash, milk formula, preemie clothes from friends and people we never even met, but have heard about us. But the biggest miracle was probably how we were able to pay our astronomical hospital bill. We were worried about our finances because we didn't have salaries as volunteers, and the hospital was the most expensive one in the whole entire country. But God did not let us down. Financial help poured in from all parts of the world, from family, friends, strangers, and eventually we were able to pay our bills, which amounted to about 2 million pesos, or USD $70,000. Our good doctor asked only for a third of his usual professional fee to be paid on installment whenever we could make a payment. This from a doctor who missed Christmas and New Year's Eve to save our baby's life.
Miriam fought on. This feisty little girl with the bony legs kicked so hard at the incubator doors as if she wanted out. and moved around so much inside the incubator. These photos were taken by her nurses who adored her for her fighting spirit, although she gave them a hard time keeping all her monitors and her feeding tube properly attached. Things started to turn around when she was finally breathing normally on her own. And on Valentine's Day, we were finally allowed to hold her in our arms in kangaroo care. It was the best Valentine's Day ever.
And just as we were blessed to have a wonderful doctor, we were also thankful for the friendship of our 16 NICU nurses. They spent a week training us how to feed Miriam, using a feeding tube, a syringe, and a preemie bottle. They taught us how to formulate and administer her 13 medications. Some had to be diluted in accurate amounts in water. We were taught by a physical therapist some exercises to help loosen phlegm in Miriam's lungs, and others to help her overcome developmental delays. And I would never forget the first time I changed Miriam's diaper.
You know that you've arrived as a parent when you've already changed the diaper. Finally, after 67 days in the hospital, baby Miriam Grace was discharged on March 1st, 2017. Today, there is no trace of any of her complications. She is now 3 years old, strong, beautiful, smart, and even feistier.
One thing we learned from this experience is to never give up, to keep fighting the good fight. Miriam, in her tiniest, weakest moments, was capable of fighting fiercely and defied all odds. What more for us who are bigger and stronger and more capable?
We hope this story gives you hope. And in the context of today's struggles, we have to take it one day at a time. To consciously find that will to fight and survive even when the odds are against us. The future is unclear. The human struggle never ends. But when we have God on our side, we can overcome.
Thank you for watching this episode, and
don't forget to subscribe!
Sending love from the Philippines.
Jesus.